Well, it's Tuesday morning, and that means that this is a special bonus episode of Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. It was recorded live from the show floor of Alabama Comic-Con this past Sunday. What started out as a conversation about Hayden Christensen and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series ended up tackling the issue of the Star Wars sequel trilogy and whether it will ever become as beloved as the prequels have been. As usual, BB Nate and Samuel the Hutt make me look really good. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys record an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen.
Welcome to this bonus episode of Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. As you just heard on that intro, we are the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by Rian Johnson. And that's what you just heard there. We obviously are big fans of the sequel trilogy, specifically what we believe is one of the best Star Wars movies ever made, The Last Jedi. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation. And that's one of the reasons we love The Last Jedi so much, is there's so much mythology in it. There is a story, it is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. This past weekend, we had the privilege of hosting our first panel ever at a Comic-Con. We were at Alabama Comic-Con in Birmingham both days. Had a great time hanging out with a bunch of nerds and geeks and Star Wars fans and meeting some new people and hanging out with an amazing droid build of Chopper and some Jawas that kept coming to the booth. We actually did get to have a booth on the show floor, and we got to broadcast live. We were actually live podcasting all weekend long on bullhorn.fm. Bullhorn.fm is a great podcast listening app where you can get all of the podcasts that you already want to listen to on there, as well as, Tatooine Sons and everybody else is available on that. But there's also a live streaming element to that, which one of the things that's really cool about it is that when you are listening on the actual app, that if the hosts of the podcast that you're listening to on a live stream can throw in links, they can throw in polls, they can throw in images, so that you can actually interact a little bit more with the audio content that's coming in. And so we were doing that all weekend long. We want to give a shout out to Bullhorn FM for sponsoring our booth and giving us a bunch of freebies to give away and letting us be a part of Alabama Comic-Con. It was great. As part of the conversation yesterday, it's Monday when I'm recording this intro here. So it was Sunday morning. We were having a conversation about Hayden Christensen. Obviously, we were talking about some of the things that had happened at New York Comic-Con this past weekend, and Hayden Christensen's appearance there, and how much he had become so beloved by Star Wars fans in the last 15 plus years, when originally he was sort of just criticized and really treated pretty poorly with it. So that conversation then morphed into a conversation about our server from Buffalo Wild Wings the night before. Here's the thing. You'll just have to listen to the whole show. I hope you enjoy it. I'll come back in the end and give you some feedback as far as things that are coming at the end of this week. But just go ahead and listen to it. Well, we're here to talk a little bit. We had an interesting conversation yesterday with the server at Buffalo Wild Wings.
We did, which was yummy.
That precipitated some thoughts for us. So I figured for our first little live deal that we're doing here on the show floor at Alabama Comic Con today. Let's talk a little Star Wars. And there's another con going on right now. It's a little bigger.
Just by
not another con here. Another con in another state. It's a little bit bigger than Alabama Comic Con.
Just a tiny bit.
New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
It's like San Diego Comic Con, but on the East Coast.
Yeah, other side.
And it's massive. And there's a guy there that has a little bit of history with Star Wars.
Just a tiny bit. Yeah, you might know of him.
He played a character called Anakin Skywalker. His name is Hayden Christensen.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
He's been there, and he's been pretty well celebrated by fans over the last few years, which is really interesting because
Sorry? I'll try not to.
The reality is, Hayden Christensen is a guy that was treated really poorly by Star Wars fandom for a number of years, and so it's interesting to see him coming back into the fold and being a part of the Star Wars world now. He's at New York Comic Con all weekend. There are people getting pictures with him like crazy. They're being celebrated. And this has been going on for about 4 or 5 years now. Really kind of going back to Star Wars Celebration Orlando 2017 when we saw him there. Mm-hmm. Why do you guys think, I get your opinions on this, why do you guys think that Hayden's portrayal of Anakin Skywalker in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith was so criticized when those films were initially released? I'll start with you, Samuel Latt.
I mean, I think everyone can objectively say some of the dialogue writing is not the best. And I think he gets a bad rap because he had some bad writing with him. I'm not sure why that didn't apply to, say, Ewan, because he, is for the most part, beloved.
Ewan McGregor's amazing.
Yeah. That's it. I think Hayden was dealt a bad hand in that regard, and it reflected poorly on him. Mm.
What do you think, BB Nate, that the pressure of playing one of the most iconic characters in all of cinema history, as we all know what his story is going to be. We don't know how it's going to happen. We just know what's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
He's going to fall to the dark side. Do you think that pressure may have been the kind of thing that would get way in his head and mess with him while he's trying to act out that character?
Definitely. I mean, that's really big, and it's new territory in most cases. I mean, you're a new actor and you're being thrown into this role that is very important. And so I just think that it was a really daunting task for Hayden, and I think that he was just ridiculed too much, honestly, after episode 2 came out. But
yeah, those are some big shoes to fill.
They are very big shoes.
I think that would get to anyone.
Yeah. Well, I think we kind of alluded to it a minute ago. I did, but we were actually privileged to have the opportunity to experience Hayden's return to Star Wars Celebrations. The first time after the prequels were in theaters that he actually came to a Star Wars Celebration. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of the fact that period of time took place because of the way that fans had reacted to Hayden in the past. He was so kind of ridiculed and criticized and trolled for what happened in the prequels. They were coming at him really, really hard. So he stopped coming to Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't blame him.
He came back, though, when we got to in Orlando in 2017. Mm-hmm. That moment at that panel, it was the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. It was George Lucas there. It was there were people from all over.
Yeah. We were in the screening room.
We were in the theater.
Yeah.
The theater.
Right.
We weren't live in the actual venue because we couldn't get in.
Right.
To it. But the moment was absolutely electric, even on video watching it.
Because the people in our room were still freaking out about it.
Screaming and yelling and everything else. What changed between the prequels being in theaters, 2000, I think it's 2003, 2005, I think is when those two came out. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, what happened?
It was just time.
Yeah,
I think
15 years.
Almost. It just people, the hype of hating the prequels died out. And that's really all it was. It wasn't cool to hate the prequels anymore because of how bad it was to some of the actors and made them just change their whole careers and everything, and it just really affected a lot of them. So it just wasn't cool anymore. And then people are like, oh wait, these movies are actually not that bad. So they just decided, let's not hate them anymore. Well, we have something new to hate. The sequels.
Yeah. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just time. But I think also the more people had time to watch the shows, the more they appreciated the story itself, the overarching story. I mean, sure, there's still the sand lines and stuff, which is going to be iconic and a meme from then on. But I also think memes, to an extent, had an effect. I know that's a really cheesy, Gen Z thing to kind of say, but I mean, let's just be honest. The prequels were memes to heck and back. I can't watch episode 3 anymore without thinking about the hundreds of memes that have come out of it, right?
Give us a second. ABC Com is doing their plug now on the show floor, and I think we can still talk over it. Yeah.
And honestly, because of that, people just appreciate the jokes, which kind of took some of the cheesy lines and made them something fun, while allowing you to also enjoy the story. So, I remember we were at Celebration. I saw on Facebook someone brought Hayden Christensen a jar of sand to sign.
To autograph.
Right.
Autographed a jar of sand.
Because of that line. And it wasn't like a mean trying to poke fun at Hayden thing. And they thought it was funny. It was funny. He was cool signing
and he had a good good nature about it.
So it's just kind of like people have embraced it at this point. They enjoy it for what it is. And and like Nathan said, it's just no longer the cool thing to do anymore.
Do you think that Hayden Christensen has sort of embraced the cringiness of the prequels as well, and he's sort of okay with it now?
Definitely. I feel like he kind of was like, okay, well, might as well just embrace it because you can't change it by fighting it. Just embrace it because it is what it is. It is cringy, but it's fun now that everybody's accepting that.
We're up on Bullhorn right now, so if you're listening to us on the actual Bullhorn FM app, you can open up your phone right now, open up your app, and you're going to see a poll and interact with it right now. Even if you're not listening live, if you're listening to this later on, you can interact with this poll. I'm curious. The poll is, which is your favorite Star Wars prequel? Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. I'm going to start with you, BB Nate. Which is your favorite of those?
Revenge of the Sith.
Why is that?
It's I think the best, most well-produced one out of all three of them. I feel like it leads really well into New Hope, and I don't know, cool fight scene at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly doesn't hurt. Yeah, I would say episode 3 as well. It's just the culmination of the story. There's a lot that happens in it. And Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship is really well fleshed out in there. And yeah, you can't beat that awesome saber fight.
Would you agree or disagree with this statement? The Revenge of the Sith film is a top 3 Star Wars film.
Ooh.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I disagree.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to rank in front of it?
In front of it? I mean, the top 3 I'd say are Last Jedi, because, I mean, obviously, Empire Strikes Back, and I gotta say episode 4.
The original Star Wars?
Yeah.
Okay, Samuel.
I'd have to do Last Jedi, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, you do like Return.
And Solo.
And Solo.
I love Solo.
A lot of people don't, like, at all.
Well, they can be wrong.
That's cool. That's awesome. Obviously, Hayden's going to be appearing in the highly anticipated Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming out next year. Let's speculate a little irresponsibly for a few minutes here.
Okay.
All right.
What are you hoping to see in that?
I don't know.
I mean, that's a very broad question. I would say I want to see Obi-Wan get into some trouble on Tatooine. Have to, defend Luke for some reason while Luke can't know about it. But I also want to see some sort of, long-distance Force connection thing between him and Vader, much like Rey and Ben.
Yeah.
Obviously, they can't do it too much, and I don't think they could have them meet, just because, in episode 4, they mentioned how long it's been since they've seen each other and things like that. So I think you have to be careful as to how much they interact, but maybe some long distance, sensing of each other, or maybe some flashbacks, but something to that effect I think would be interesting.
BB Nate.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they'll do flashbacks. I don't think that's really a great decision, because then you got to go with the de-aging, and I just don't think that'll work. I think that you go with as Darth Vader. I think we transition that character to be, and maybe allow Hayden to play Darth Vader in other series as well going forward in between episode 3 and 4. I think that would be very awesome to do that. And so Of course, we have absolutely no idea what Kenobi is going to be about. So
We know that it's set
after 3. So
set right around the Solo era, that period of time. Which, going all the way back to Solo, you remember the speculation on our end almost 4 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, 3. What is it?
Has it been that long?
2018. So
Yeah.
it's been over 3 years.
Wow.
Since we've done that. My speculation was that the Kenobi movie, which was being set up at that time, was going to be set up with Connect to Solo, and you were going to have some some tie-ins there with Crimson Dawn and Darth Maul, and that was the job that Solo was going to go do on Tatooine. And so he was going to interact at some point with Kenobi in that. Not sure we're going to get that in this series now.
I doubt it.
We got Chopper coming over saying hi to us again here on the show floor at Alabama Comic-Con. Absolutely loving that. We got to get some photos of that.
That is awesome.
Chopper is our dude. Anything to do with Star Wars Rebels is a big deal for us. And so when you've got a life-size Chopper chirping at you and waving its arms here.
That's awesome.
That's pretty exciting stuff. I would love to see something to do with Maul, but see Maul on Tatooine because of Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah,
I agree. So maybe some Don stuff. Maybe get Kira at some point. That could be a big surprise showing up. And you could tie.
I think that would work.
That could tie into the
right. I had to go backwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moment where Obi-Wan Kenobi in Empire Strikes Back says to Luke, "Your father." Maybe Return of the Jedi, because Luke already knows that Darth Vader is his father. He's like, Darth Vader says to Luke on the Forest Moon of Endor, he's like, your Obi-Wan once thought as you did when he was trying to turn Darth Vader back to the light. And he says, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. And that doesn't seem to make sense in the current story, because nowhere in Revenge of the Sith do you get the idea that Obi-Wan Kenobi thinks he can turn Anakin back to the light, really. Like what we see. Maybe you could shoehorn that into some conversations on Mustafar, but it's not really strong with it.
Yeah.
I would love to see a real confrontation, maybe on Tatooine, between Kenobi and Darth Vader almost turning back to the light and then changing and going back to the dark side. And that's what precipitates that whole conversation. And that, what would you think about something like that?
I like it, but you just got to be careful about them not having met for so long. They mentioned that in episode 4, so you just got to be careful about muddying that timeline up a bit. The concept I like a lot. Maybe it could even be something more like a Force connection too. That way, because I don't think Vader's ever gone back to Tatooine, or maybe he has once or twice, but he hardly goes back there, probably because of all the sand. But I think maybe it's got to be some sort of like crazy long distance like Force fight thing. I mean, I'm thinking almost like Mortis
like
level.
Or some of the things that we saw in the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
Ray
something like that would be pretty cool, I think. But I don't think you can have them straight up just meet up on Tatooine.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you just got to be careful about confusing the timeline.
Okay. Well, hanging out at cons and that kind of thing, and the amount of interaction that we have with Star Wars fans everywhere we go, partly because I think that we wear Star Wars shirts just about every day.
Pretty much.
Maybe not BB Nate. BB Nate's kind of like he's got
the Batman.
He's got his Batman shirts. He's got his Under Mifflin shirts. He's got his Invincible shirt, and then he's got his Star Wars shirt. So he's a little bit more well-rounded than Sam and I. With that, but we interact with Star Wars fans obviously a lot, and especially at cons, and it seems to confirm something that I've noticed more and more over the last year plus, and that is that hating the sequels has become completely cliche. So last night we were eating dinner at B-Dubs here in Birmingham, and the server came up and she saw our Tatooine Sons shirts
Yeah.
on, and she immediately recognized the word Tatooine and started talking about Star Wars and was super excited to have Star Wars nerds with us and talked about how she's a super fan.
Right.
Yeah.
And how like all her coworkers hate her talking about it because she just won't stop talking about it.
And she was really excited to talk to us when she came to the table.
Right.
And then immediately she just started the conversation on its own.
We hardly got a word in.
Turned into, I hate the sequels.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty much.
Like, there wasn't even a point where we were like, okay with like having that conversation. We didn't bring up the sequels.
No.
We were just talking about Star Wars and
Yeah.
having a Star Wars podcast because she was asking about our shirts and it was sort of like, I love Star Wars, I hate the sequels was the
Right.
way. And it seems to be and we've had that happen a half dozen times in the last day.
Yeah.
At the cons. With it, she even went so far as to say that she lay in bed for 3 months processing the sequels in order to hate them.
Right. She said they were okay.
She liked them when
they were okay at first.
and then she lay in bed for 3 months about why she, basically coming to the conclusion that she hates them.
Right.
Yeah.
First of all, why would you do that?
Because it's the cool thing to
Yeah.
do. That's what you've got to do.
Exactly.
To be a Star Wars fan, people think you have to not like the sequels. I mean, okay, I will be honest, and I think I've expressed this before. The sequels could have amounted to more, I think. With episode 8 set up
It felt like,
but that's not to say I hated them and that they're the worst thing to happen to Star Wars. Were they a little bit of a letdown? Sure. But that's not all Star Wars is good Star Wars, right? Some Star Wars is better than others.
but it's even in that statement though, it seems to me like we're trying to soften our stance on the sequels because all three of us will say The Last Jedi is one of our top Star Wars.
Right.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we immediately go into, but the sequels aren't that great, or they struggle, or they have weakness, because that's what fandom wants to do with the sequels right now. What I'm concerned with is that I think that while we may have different story choices, those are the movies that we got.
Yeah, exactly.
And like we said yesterday in our panel, we say it all the time on this show. All Star Wars is good Star Wars. Now,
Right.
we might like some Star Wars differently than others, but it's all good.
It is.
Right.
And so why do you think it's just why? Okay, you guys have both said it in the last couple of minutes. It's cool to hate the sequels right now. Why is it cool?
I don't know. I think it started with Last Jedi, I have a feeling. There was this big push for hate, and it's just it's like what happened with the prequels. It became cool to hate the prequels, too. And that's just the thing right now. As to why, I don't know. Just because people need something to be negative about, I guess.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you always hear one perspective on it because there's that very vocal side that say they hate everything, and then the people who like it don't get a word in edgewise. Like the conversation at B-Dubs last night.
Exactly.
She just, and we to talk. I'm like, I just want to order some food. Like, I love talking Star Wars. You're going to talk about why you hate it so much and not let us chime in. I just want to order some
And then her reaction when we were like, oh no, we love The Last Jedi. We love the sequels. They're awesome. And then she never came back and talked Star Wars again with us the rest of the time.
Right.
It wasn't like we said she was wrong. We just said we like them.
No, we just had a differing opinion.
It feels like you're not a Star Wars fan now if you don't hate the sequels.
Yeah, you can't like Star Wars if you're a Star Wars fan.
Exactly.
Like, it's this weird oxymoron thing going on.
It really is.
Right now. But, yeah, I just think it's this mob mentality. People just, it's the cool thing to do. It's what everyone's doing, and they're not open to hearing anything else. I mean, honestly, that climate, that's been a problem for a very long time. That's just human nature. You're gonna side with the people who have similar opinions to you, and you're gonna group up and drown out the people who have a differing viewpoint than you.
Well, I mean,
it's
pretty obvious from our, anybody listening to the show ever in the history of our show knows we love The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Okay. So of all of the sequel movies, we know that that's our number one.
Absolutely.
But we just threw up a poll over here on Bullhorn. If you had to pick between the other two, I'm thinking it's Force Awakens or BB-8. You really like The Rise of Skywalker.
I enjoy it, yes.
Which one would you pick between those two as far as the second place?
Probably Rise.
Really?
I really
That's cool.
enjoy it, yeah.
Force
Awakens?
Mm-hmm.
Why Force Awakens?
I think it's all around good. And like episode 8, it's set up a lot too. And that's why I appreciate it. And it's just all the newness of it too. Like there was so much new things to it. It was a new setting, new characters. And I mean, the story is familiar enough. It is very similar to episode 4, but it does enough differently. So yeah, that's why I would give that one my second place.
And BB-8, why would you put Rise of Skywalker in that place?
I just think that Rise of Skywalker does something completely different. It's a story we have never seen before in Star Wars.
Fair enough.
Like
okay.
Force Awakens, which feels a lot like A New Hope. I don't know. I like the characters. It feels like Star Wars, and it's just all around a fun movie. And that's what Star Wars is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a great philosophy class. It's supposed to be Star Wars. So
that's cool. Now that the sequels have come or have allowed Star Wars fans to have something new to hate,
right.
Some Star Wars fans at least. I'm not saying all Star Wars fans like this, but it is a problem.
Yeah.
In Star Wars fandom, I think it's kind of freed them up to at least make the claim that they've always loved the prequels.
Right.
Even though you guys weren't around for this, but you guys know about the hate.
Oh, it was bad.
Really even
bad.
like when the prequels or sequels were getting ready to release,
yeah,
it was still commonly discussed that the prequels were terrible.
Right.
You'd never watch the Phantom Menace, Machete Order, cut that one completely out.
Yeah.
And we were, we fell into that some.
To an extent, yeah, for sure.
With it as well. But now fans love the prequels. We were at Celebration 2020, Celebration 2017, or 2019, 2019 and 2017. And the prequel, the Phantom Menace panel was packed. People were waiting for hours, and people were singing, Weird Al
Saga
Yankovic's
Begins.
The Saga Begins to the top of their lungs, and Ahmad Best is welcomed out on stage, and he gets a standing ovation, almost brings him to tears. It was it was awesome.
Oh, it was really encouraging
with it. Do you think that, now that we're 20 years removed, we've got that with the prequels, do you think we'll ever get to a point where, I'll use this as an example, it's the 20th anniversary of The Last Jedi, so we're dealing with 2038.
Dang.
Okay?
Dang.
It's 2038, and you guys have my grandsons with you, and we're all three special, I'm going to dream for a little bit, we're special guests at this because we've become such apologists for The Last Jedi, and we named Turbis the Porg with it. So Lucasfilm invites us to this because you can't tell the story of The Last Jedi without telling the story of Tatooine's sons and Turbis the Porg.
Obviously.
Oh, totally. I mean,
they're synonymous.
All right. Obviously, we're exaggerating a little bit here.
A little?
A lot. With it, but we're there. We're in the arena. Okay. And the moment comes where Rian Johnson is brought out on stage to talk about The Last Jedi. Do you think there's ever the chance we get anything close to resembling the Ahmad Best Phantom Menace panel type experience regarding The Last Jedi?
I think given enough time, yeah. I mean, the Phantom Menace was hated almost as equally as Last Jedi. I don't know. Maybe Last Jedi was more. But I think given enough time, I think people could come to like it. And, when we become the most popular Star Wars podcast of all time, and everyone listens to us praise and talk about everything
when
that's
it's
great.
3 generations of Star Wars fans.
And, they hear all the reasons why The Last Jedi is amazing. They obviously change their mind, and every Star Wars fan will come to love The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I think it's got a possibility.
What do you think, BB-8? Does that happen?
Right now, I just can't imagine it happening.
It's hard to imagine.
It's hard to.
It is hard.
I wish it would. I'm hoping that it will. But yeah, I think give it time. Time heals all wounds. So just let it breathe.
I will tell you that if someone would have told me in the year 2004, 2005, that I would be in Chicago in 2019. So let's say it's 2004, 15 years later.
Okay.
If I would be in Chicago at the McCormick Center in a panel with 6,000 rabid Star Wars fans singing The Saga Begins to the top of our lungs, and then giving a 5-minute standing ovation to Ahmed Best, I would have said they were absolutely insane and out of their mind.
Really?
Because that's how badly the Phantom Menace and the prequels in general were received at that point by fans. So while I totally get where you're coming from, BB Nate, I really do hope that someday Star Wars fans find something new to hate. And and maybe maybe Rian Johnson's new trilogy will have something to do with that, because it's still out there. I've screen ranted an article about a couple of days ago about all the different Star Wars items in production, and they still listed it as being there. It's there. He's talked about it. Mm-hmm. It's never been taken down from StarWars.com. Yep. It's part of it. So maybe that will also help the process.
That's a good point.
Maybe.
The prequels are you out of earlier, BB Nate. But the prequels are infamous. What are some of those moments in the sequels?
Oh, cringeworthy moments in the sequel. Okay.
Like similar to what we experienced with the prequels and the memes and all that. What are some cringeworthy moments?
I think that just comes up over time.
Yeah, that comes up over time.
I think a lot of people will take The Last Jedi and do that, just much like Episode 2, funny enough.
General Hugs.
Yeah, that General
Hugs.
That's
a cringeworthy moment.
That's funny though.
It's funny, but it's cringy too.
Yeah.
People didn't like it, so they turned it into
the milk in Episode 8.
That is already there.
Yeah, he's milking the
green milk, and he's milking the failing siren. Or whatever.
Yeah. Shirtless Kylo.
Shirtless. Yes. Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Swallow Ren.
Yeah, Ben Swallow.
Ben Swallow. That's it. Yeah. Well, Kelly Marie Tran's. This is how we save what.
The kiss thing.
This is how we win by saving, fighting for what we love, or saving what we love, not fighting what we hate, or whatever.
Something like that.
That's already gotten a little bit cringeworthy,
right?
At times. With Poe Dameron in The Rise of Skywalker, somehow he came back. Somehow Palpatine's back.
Yeah.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah, that's it. It's already a meme. That's already.
Oh yeah.
With it. Okay.
That's cool. I mean, there's moments, and Star Wars fans are gonna, like vultures, pick everything apart, and that's just it. And over time, things will become more and more solidified as this is cringy. But I mean, it's hard to deny that there's some cringy stuff in the prequels.
There is.
And even objectively, I'm pretty sure there's some cringy stuff in the prequels, and that's just how it is. It's fine.
Always will be.
But what's important...
There's cringy stuff in the original trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
What are some cringy moments in the OT?
Luke kissing Leia.
It becomes real cringy by the end of the show.
Right.
The trilogy. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But I was going to Tachi Station to pick up some power converters.
Right, that one. It's just I'm just thinking of all like the classic lines. So I've got to pick some of the figure out some of the not so famous ones.
It is interesting to think back on the original trilogy, and if there's anything that can be said about episodes 4, 5, and 6, is that while it's the same clunky dialogue and scripting and screenwriting by George Lucas that we get in the prequels that has a lot of that cringiness to it, it is important to note how powerfully acted that trilogy is with.
Yeah.
And that's one of the, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Sir Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
They did a fantastic job of playing it straight.
Yeah. You can write this stuff, you just can't say
But they played it straight.
Yeah.
They played it serious the whole time.
They did.
They owned those crazy weird lines and let them be what they were. And I think that's, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, Sam, I think that's why Ewan McGregor is treated differently with Kenobi, is because he treats that character like a straight character. Like he doesn't.
That's a good point.
He just owns those lines. With it. That business on Cato Pneumonia. That's a weird line. It could be a meme. It is kind of.
I'm not brave enough for politics.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So with it. All right.
That's a good point.
2022, it's going to be the year of Star Wars. 2021 was kind of the year of the MCU.
Yeah.
With all the different films in the series that were released. And there's going to be a ton of that stuff that comes out in the next year as well. But it seems more and more like 2022 is going to be the year where we get to have that same type of experience with Star Wars. There are, right now, the expectation is all of this happening in 2022. I'll just go through this.
I'm ready.
Book of Boba Fett, Andor,
Yeah.
Mandalorian Season 3, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Bad Batch Season 2, A Droid Story, and of course Star Wars Celebration Anaheim.
If they ever release the tickets.
Well, no, it's already, the tickets are just not for remaining tickets. People already, their regular tickets are already there.
Oh, okay.
It's just, we gave up our tickets because of,
they haven't started selling them again though.
Yeah.
So.
But they're not, it's because they don't know how many they actually are going to be able to sell.
I see.
With it. Of everything, I'm going to take, Sam, for you, I have to take Book of Boba Fett out because we already know that.
Dang it.
That Book of Boba Fett's what you want. Of those, what are you most, excited or interested or intrigued for?
Mando Season 3 or Ahsoka. That's where I think that's where I'm interested, just because I really enjoyed The Mandalorian, so I'm curious to see where they go with that, with him having the Darksaber and stuff now. And then, Ahsoka, because we might get some Rebels connections there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. BB-8?
Yeah, definitely Ahsoka. I think that just, I'm excited for it. I've been asking for a follow-up series to Rebels for a very long time. And so I'm just excited to get something more Rebels, coming out of it.
I couldn't argue with either of you guys on all that. And of course, the Book of Boba Fett is at the top of Sam's list for real. With that, the more I stop and I think about it, and I think having this conversation today has me really intrigued by Kenobi.
Okay.
Because it could retcon the prequels and the original trilogy in a way that very little in Star Wars has ever done.
Interesting.
You haven't seen anything impact the original trilogy as much as the prequels. You guys have never experienced that. So when we're,
right, because the whole Clone Wars line and the backstory of Anakin and Obi-Wan and stuff. Yeah.
And so this could have the same type of impact on both the prequels and the original trilogy, because we don't know if we're not going to get some flashbacks
That's a good point.
and some Clone Wars action and things like that. And so all of that could be playing into it. I'm pretty excited about it. Here's the other thing that I think, and we talked about this a little bit on the panel yesterday. We have to, for me being an original trilogy kid, growing up with this, when Return of the Jedi was done, Star Wars was over.
Yeah.
And then I remembered that first trailer was getting ready to release. You heard that they had announced the Phantom Menace was coming out, in 1999, and they announced in advance. This is pre-YouTube. This is pre all of that stuff. You don't get to watch it all this stuff. I mean, YouTube, I don't even think YouTube existed at the time in 1999.
No, maybe not.
1998 when this came out.
No.
The internet was like taking off, but that was it.
Mm-hmm.
They announced that the trailer for the Phantom Menace was going to be released with the movie, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Okay. All right.
Which is that weird Brad Pitt movie where he starts off born really old and he de-ages.
Yeah.
Throughout
I know
the
what
thing.
it is.
Listen, you guys, people bought tickets to go see The Curious Case of Benjamin Button just to watch the trailer and then leave.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Okay, so that's how excited people were to get Star Wars again.
Oh, yeah.
With it. And so it was that way with the prequels. Even though people were struggling with some of the stuff within the prequels, they still were that excited about it. And then the prequels were over.
Mm-hmm.
Once the prequels were over, Star Wars was done again, with it. And then the Disney era begins, the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney, and we start hearing that they're actually going to be making movies and that type of thing. And we got it again. You guys, you have not experienced Star Wars fandom without having Star Wars coming out all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
When you guys jumped in, you already had the Clone Wars sitting there, and it just finished.
We kind of were watching it a little bit as it was going.
Rebels was in its peak at this point.
Right.
You're getting the Force Awakens, the last Rogue One, the Last Jedi, Solo, the Rise of Skywalker.
Yep.
Rise of Skywalker finishes, and you get the Mandalorian, you get the Bad Batch, you get the Clone Wars Season 7, you get Resistance,
You're getting more Mandalorian now, and we have Visions this year, even though it's been a weird off year. And next year, you're getting Book of Boba Fett, Andor, another season of The Mandalorian, another season of The Bad Batch, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and a droid story with this.
Yeah.
We are in the greatest period of being a Star Wars fan that you could ever possibly imagine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Stop complaining, Star Wars fans. Be excited. Enjoy your Star Wars.
Exactly.
And if you can't, don't ruin it for everybody around.
Amen.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess I got a little bit punchy there. Maybe it was a lack of sleep, and you know how it is the last day of a con. You've been up really late every night, and you're going nonstop. And maybe I was, or maybe I'm just a grumpy old man that doesn't like people complaining about Star Wars all the time. Who knows? Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that little bonus episode of Tatooine Sons. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I want to throw up a poll, so I'm going to go over to Twitter as a little bit later this morning. Now that when this comes out, it's going to be pretty early Tuesday morning. So sometime in the morning on Tuesday, I'll throw out a poll on Twitter, and I would love for you guys to check it out. The question will be, will the sequels ever be as beloved as the prequels have become? Simple answers, yes or no. So we'd love to have you guys vote in that. Coming Friday afternoon, our regular show will be released for this coming week. I'll be talking about the Star Wars Visions Ronin short episode, as well as maybe some of the things that are happening with the Ronin novel that's coming out this week. BB Nate's going to answer the question, what is the Ayers cut of the Suicide Squad? So that should be an interesting conversation as well. And then Samuel Hutt's really going to dig into who the Celestials are as we prepare for the next big MCU release, the Eternals, coming out on November 5th. That the tickets just went on sale today. We got our tickets. We're going to IMAX on the 4th, Thursday premiere, to watch this thing. Second longest movie in MCU history, and we couldn't be more excited about it. Well, thank you guys again so much for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. If you had a good time listening to this or any of our episodes, it would be really great if you could share this with your friends, and remember that this show is just a small part of the Tatooine Sons world, that we are on Facebook, and we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram. We're trying to ramp up Instagram a little bit. I don't understand it. I had a conversation with Sam's girlfriend about it Saturday evening after the con, and was like, I just don't get some of the stuff that's going on. But anyway, you can keep up to date on everything going on with the show at TatooineSons.com. Don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss our next episode. And then remember that if you drop us a review on your podcast app of choice, or if you want to make it easy, we love the people over at Podchaser, so podchaser.com/TatooineSons. You can make a review there, and then we will give a donation in your honor to one child to help a child living in extreme poverty. That's going to do it for this bonus episode. Thank you so much for listening. And on behalf of BB Nate and Samuel the Hutt, may the Force be with you.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.
Yep, yep.